Hello and welcome. You're watching the Global Reset on CNBC-TV18 Prime with me, Prashant Nair. This is a program where we at least try to explore the intersection of politics, economics, technology, and of course examine their impact on our world. Today we dive into the tech and IT space. Remember, there has been a lot of anxiety, angst after TCS's announcement that it's going to let go of about 2% of its global workforce over a period of the next 1 year or so. I mean, I think it's just put the topic of whether India is future tech ready into sharp focus. That anxiety, that sense of almost helplessness has been there around for the last couple of years. As India's IT giants, I mean, are facing layoffs, questions are mounting whether our industry is losing global relevance. And a bigger, bolder question which emerges is, has Indian tech lost its edge? I mean, or is this the moment to really reset? Can we do it? Why can't India have its own OpenAI, Facebook, Google, etc., etc.? Not just copycats, but original global tech powerhouses. We've got the people for sure. We've got the talent for sure. We've got capital now. So what's stopping us from doing all of this right here at home in India? That's the challenge our guests are putting on the table, and we have 25 minutes to talk about this. We'll do so and try and cover various aspects of it. You know, this is a question which feels more urgent than ever, especially with this big AI revolution which is taking shape and is expected to impact lots of entry-level jobs as far as India and around the world is concerned. But IT services exports are such a large driver for the economy, have been for the last 25 years or so. On the show today, we'll not get you a 30,000 feet view, but we'll really sort of, talk to people, two people who've had lived experience in building tech for global companies, global scale, and they've, of course, also had experience running their own tech companies. Joydeep Sen Sarma is co-creator of Apache Hive at Facebook, the tool that turned mountains of raw data into actionable insight. And now, of course, he's the founder of ClearFeed, an AI startup, which is reimagining how modern teams work. We also have Prashant Malik, a co-creator of the Apache Cassandra, the database that powers Facebook Messenger, Netflix, Apple. He's also the engineer behind the backend that helped Facebook scale to billions of users. So, these are people who've sort of been there, done that, who are engineers themselves, so they kind of know what it takes to do it in Silicon Valley, in global companies, and of course now they're running their own companies here in India. So that's the conversation that we want to have here. Both Joydeep and Prashant, welcome to the program. Thank you very much for joining us here today. So that's a slightly longish preamble, just to set the context right in terms of what we want to do. Joydeep, let me start with you. It's a simple question with not so simple answers, I reckon, which is we've got, the ingredients which go into the mix maybe there, right? I mean, talent and engineering talent and capital to back it. A lot of it, right? I mean, VCs and there's no dearth of capital to back some of this. What is lacking here when we talk about why we don't have deep, sort of frontier, cutting-edge technology companies? Joydeep.
I think, the software market is segmented. We have a lot of great companies here. Obviously, we had amazing success stories like Freshworks and Zoho. But if it comes to deep tech, where we are specifically talking about state-of-the-art AI models or microprocessors or things like that, I think it's a very different ballgame. It requires tremendous amounts of risk capital. It requires very, very deep talent and a large amount of deep talent, not like a few people. And it also requires access to markets that are willing to try out risky new products. And I think we will slowly get there, but I think those are very difficult for us. It is just a matter of time to have that sort of confluence of, deep capital, deep talent, and sort of markets sort of coming together.
Prashant, you want to sort of kick this off? Your thoughts, opening thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, capital is there, but where is the capital going, right? Is there enough risk capital in India? That's first question that I would ask. 98 billion or so was invested in 2024 into AI startups in the world. In India, it was just 350 million. That's 250x times more was invested in the West than in India. And also, out of this 350 million, so almost 75% went into just 3 companies. So almost nothing got into AI startups at all. Is the capital following the tech at all, or is it just going behind valuation and stuff? So that's the first question that I would ask. So I think the statement that a lot of capital exists is a blanket statement, and probably the right capital for the right thing doesn't really exist. That's the first thing. Second is to be able to build global technology which has impact. You need a lot of interaction between the industry and the academia, which is totally missing in India. I mean, if you kind of think about it, the research labs and stuff almost is non-existent. And even if it is there, their contribution to the real industry work is very limited. And from if you look at the West, on the other hand, where a lot of great companies have come out of Stanford, MIT, they are like spun off from there. The biggest example would be Google, which was a research paper at Stanford and is a $1 trillion company today. Has anything like that ever happened or even thought of here back in India? So there are some big gaps that exist. So having just raw talent doesn't suffice. Talent for the right things is also very important, which is and its collaboration with the industry. So I would say these two or three things are big misses that are there in India to get there.
Maybe at the margin, it is changing, right, in small ways. I mean, most of the IITs, for example, have innovation labs, accelerators. IIT Madras, for example, a couple of unicorns have emerged out of IIT Madras. Bombay has got a flourishing program, and so on and so forth. Delhi as well. But that point, Prashant, about those numbers, right, 250x and capital is there, but is it the lack of ideas and lack of capital, or I mean, is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both, I would say, and also regarding what I'm claiming is not really a blanket statement saying that nothing is there. There are green shoots definitely,
Yeah,
and positive things to look forward to. And India has a bright future, and I'm pretty sure a lot of AI and other startups will emerge from India going forward. But at the current point, I see these things which I stated lacking.
yeah, no point taken. Joydeep, you want to sort of add to that? And by the way, for our viewers, both of you were colleagues at in the early years of Facebook.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
And both of you were based in the Valley at that point.
Yes.
Okay, that's lovely. Go on, Joydeep.
Yeah, no, I think Prashant's point is on the mark, but I think the reasons are also very clear. First of all, when it comes to deep tech, so let's say you're putting a frontier model together, there is no such thing as an Indian market. You want to sell to the global market, and you have to be one of the top 2 or top 3 sort of players in any market to be, interesting. And if you look at the bulk of the talent, while we do have obviously homegrown talent, but as all of us know, a lot of our top talent also emigrates to the West, like we did, like both Prashant and I did, and not just India. Talent from all over the world. Whether it is China, Romania, Russia, Ukraine, South America. You go to the US, you will find people from across the world, the best talent from across the world converging there. And so naturally, that confluence of, hey, if I want to build a world-beating technology company with hundreds of deep researchers, and I want the best researchers, honestly, like the ecosystem to assemble that is primarily in the West and very specifically in the United States, in Silicon Valley, and maybe a couple of other places. And so naturally, capital also flows there. And even if there were people in India who were starting such companies, they are encouraged by the venture capital community here as well to move to the US and to raise funds there. So I don't know if they would even show up statistically as sort of Indian startups or would count in the numbers that Prashant has been mentioning.
So in a way, we don't have sort of centers of higher education. I mean, people sort of pass out of IITs, go abroad to do their MS, PhDs, etc. Joydeep, I mean, essentially, and then I mean that system allows for close collaboration between venture capital and academia, as Prashant pointed out. So I mean, you think that's the first kind of hurdle?
I think, it is hard to break these things down. It is a confluence, like I said, large amounts of deep talent, risk capital, and we're not talking about like $100 million. Like, I think Anthropic and others are raising like billions of dollars. While I think to supplement Prashant's point, while we have capital, do we have capital to invest $1 billion in a highly risky company? And the answer is no, right? We don't have that much capital. We have some capital. We don't have that much capital. And to the extent that we have those capital, that goes in e-commerce companies and so on, right? Because which are already established and have lower risk profiles. I think Prashant's point about academia is very important because academia is one of those things that brings this talent together. The talent from all over the world that aggregates into places like Silicon Valley or Boston or Seattle or Austin, is also being attracted to famous academic centers. So I think, in my opinion, it is very hard to say that it is X or Y. It is the confluence of talent, capital, market, and yes, as Prashant said, also academia that sort of acts as a magnet. All of these things coming together is required, and we don't have that. We just don't have that ecosystem.
Prashant, I mean, actually, both you and Joydeep spent your sort of, in a way, formative years in Silicon Valley. What does that ecosystem get right, in your opinion, Prashant?
Right, so there is a lot of value. So first of all, if you kind of think about Silicon Valley, right, it's been 50, 60, 70 years since Silicon Valley has been in the making. So they have really deep roots and have seen the formidable years of how these companies are really built, and that ecosystem is very, very strong. And also, as Joydeep pointed out, it is not just the local ecosystem, right? The entire world migrates to the US. The smartest of the brain migrates to the US. And the kind of talent and the ambition that you find there is unprecedented. I mean, you cannot just compare it to India. I mean, that thing is just not there. So those are some of the biggest ingredients that you find in the US and in the Silicon Valley. Second is or third is probably the entire mix of the open systems out there, right? So whether it be protocols, whether it be open source software, whether it be integration with the industry and so on, and the academia which comes again. These systems have been formed over many, many years and have been like made to perfection today, which really helps the developers and the companies and the startups that are getting formed. Now, if you compare it to some ecosystem which is nascent like India, I mean, I can hardly think of any open source contribution or system that has come out of India in any time in the near past that I can think of. And so these things have to yet be formed. These things are yet to get in, and these are things that are provided to you on a platter in the Silicon Valley. Plus, the ambition that you see in people around you in Silicon Valley is mostly global, right? It is not like I want to solve something for San Francisco or I want to solve something for the US. It is, I want to change the world. That's the kind of thinking that's prevalent. Now, if you kind of think about that in India, most of the companies over the last 10 years, I've been investing into a lot of companies and done many angel investing. But a lot of founders that I come across are always thinking of either replicating something from the West into India. How will this idea work in India? Will it grow? Or solving something particularly for India as such. I'm not saying that those are not important problems. Those are very important problems, and we should go and hit those problems and build billion-dollar companies. So please don't get me wrong. But at the same time, you need to have the ambition and the first day one thought of building something for the globe, for something that's changing. That Silicon Valley just ingrains in you, and that's completely missing, I think, here that I find. So these are a few things that I think Silicon Valley just provides you very easily and just puts the DNA into you whereas it's very difficult to get it from other ecosystems.
Yeah. No, point taken. Just a, we'll take a break and we'll come to what needs to change and, can something change and whether we are at a particularly vulnerable time because the way, AI technologies are sort of coming, I mean, I think they're coming at the fastest rate that any other technology wave has come and in a way hit us. So we'll get to it, but just 30-second response from both of you. Indian IT services is what kind of sort of has built the backbone of the Indian middle class over the last 25-30 years. How vulnerable is that workforce? And it's very large, right? Because of the changes which are coming. And do both of you think that companies can retrain their workforce in a significant enough way to avoid being sidelined as these technological changes come our way? Joydeep, you go first. Joydeep, you're on mute. You'll have to unmute yourself.
Sorry. Yeah, my quick take is, that this is an industry-wide problem. It's a global problem for all IT services firms. And the reality is that there are hundreds or thousands of companies in the world that are now solely focused on automating things that humans used to do manually. And I think, it is going to have a big impact. That doesn't mean that these companies don't exist. Obviously, they will continue to exist. They will have substantial business. But, we can anticipate fairly substantial reductions, in terms of the amount of human workforce that these companies will require. That's my quick take.
Prashant?
Well, I totally agree with Joydeep. It's not like a local Indian problem as such. It's a global problem that AI, but India is actually at an advantage rather than a disadvantage here, because most of these services companies have been trying to build already AI kind of applications for the world. So that know-how and that talent and that training that you're talking about already kind of exists. So we are going to be starting from a good base, and those are the positive things I wanted to talk about as we proceed in this conversation that India holds, and why I feel that India is right now at a point to carve its own way into this whole AI revolution that is taking place. And I really feel that we can really build some great startups starting from here.
Okay, so that's what we will do. The problems we've identified, what needs to be done to provide some fixes is the focus when we come back after a quick break. Joydeep and Prashant, stay with us. Welcome back. What can India do to foster an environment which enables Indian companies, private or otherwise, to do cutting-edge work in technology and build global companies? That's the question we are debating here with Joydeep and Prashant. We've sort of, in a way, identified the problems and the roadblocks and what we don't have, which perhaps countries like the US, etc., have. Both to both of you, Joydeep and Prashant, I was listening to this talk by Eric Schmidt, and he was asked, right? I mean, he was being asked about this AI competition, AI race between US and China, and he was asked, why is this such a big deal? And his point, actually, he explained it pretty well. He said, it's very important because in his line of work, which is technology, once you go vertical, it's very difficult, especially with AI, etc., to catch up because you're building on advancements and you leapfrog very, very fast. And I mean, he went on to make another point, which is that China perhaps is the only country which can marshal resources to put behind the aim, a goal, I mean, capital, manpower, and of course, I mean, have that long commitment as well. And that's the reason why China is able to sort of come up with DeepSeek and a couple of other models as well. I think they've got about 4 or 5 models now. Do you think in the absence, Prashant, you go first, in the absence of an organic environment like what exists which has been built in Silicon Valley over the last 60, 70 years, I mean, the government in some way, shape, form needs to take charge, bring all these kind of sort of varied efforts together and really do this in mission mode?
So definitely the government has a role to play, and there are already some very good initiatives by the Indian government. For example, the Niti Aayog has come up with a lot of initiatives. There is the Indian AI system that's leading a charge on building a number of LLMs and also providing data sets and other things which are required for the next generation of AI applications. So, but of course, a lot more can be done, which the government can bring on the table, and I'm sure there is intent and also action that is happening at that place. But that is not sufficient, or I think a necessary condition in a certain sense. It is, but there is a lot more from required from the ecosystem itself, not just the government. There needs to be change in the fundamental thinking that I was talking about, which is the global mindset, which is also the applications framework that needs to be built for the AI world. And India is really good at it. I mean, if you kind of think about it, we have probably never built any great tech infrastructure, but we have built some really good applications, and even the entire service industry that exists in India has been building applications for the Fortune 500 around the world. So if you kind of think about it, that talent exists really, really well in India and can be really leveraged to build the next generation of AI applications which need to come out. And I'm already seeing the seeds of it happening. So over the last 6 months, I've been talking to a lot of companies or startups, and their tone is completely changing. Where instead of going and building the next D2C or other kind of company which is really hot, now they are thinking of building AI applications which are relevant for the world, for India, for many situations. So the green shoots of that are already beginning to happen. And that, I think, is the leverage that India has to leapfrog this entire revolution that India has kind of missed on over the last couple of years, and get into the AI game in a big, big way.
So it's already happening, you're saying. You're already seeing that shift in mindset in terms of what many that you speak to and meet want to do.
Absolutely, absolutely. So the kind of companies that I talked to over the last 6 months have drastically changed in their thinking and the kind of solutions that they want to build.
Yeah, and nothing succeeds like success, right? I mean, you have one or two big success stories, and then that pulls in more people into something. Joydeep, you want to sort of add to that your perspective? Same question.
Yeah, I think with regards to what can the government do, first of all, usually I'm a big fan of the government staying away. I think, uh, all the innovation happens because of entrepreneurs, engineers, technologists with the aid of private capital. I think the less the government interferes, the better. Having said that, I think there are two specific things that I strongly feel that would help. One is I think government can help local vendors, primarily because it itself is a buyer of technology. And so to the extent that, it is buying, let's say, AI technology or any technology for that matter for the government's own departments and so on, I think if it can bias that market a little bit and sort of purchase from local companies, I think that is a good way of supporting local ventures. And also, I think it is legitimate because you're kind of doing this for national security purposes and sovereignty and so on. The second thing I would say is that, as Prashant also knows and all of us know, like any promising startup today in India, the first thing they do is if they're getting any traction and they want to raise serious capital, they kind of are strongly encouraged, and as well as they get a O1 visa and they shift to the US or shift somewhere else, maybe Dubai, to sort of incorporate and start company and raise money. So I think if we really want to be the home of world-beating companies, we have to get rid of regulations that prevent any serious company from incorporating and sort of at least headquartering here. They may hire people, but they don't headquarter. And the reasons are well known to everybody. There's too much regulation, like our currency is not convertible. There are tremendous amounts of obstacles in terms of free movement of money and sort of hiring people abroad or sort of selling abroad. There's too much complexity in regulations, and nobody wants to deal with all this. A lot of foreign investors also don't want to. The largest foreign investors will, a lot of them will not want to invest in a company that's incorporated in India. So I think I would prefer to see a hands-off approach from the government, and they should rather introspect, why countries, why companies continue to leave India purely because of regulatory reasons. And that is, I think, what the government should fix on an urgent basis, rather than trying to um, you know do stuff. Like, they don't need to do anything; they just need to get out of the way.
But one can make the point, Joydeep, that there are enough and more restrictions with regards to capital and movement of capital in China, for example, right? But they've managed to. It's a different model. But my point is that they've managed to put something together in a variety of high tech industries, not just AI.
That is true, but it took them. They are much further ahead of us. So the Chinese economy, I don't have the exact numbers, but they must be at least 5 times our economic size.
Yes.
And they were extremely open to foreign investment for a long time, while we were sort of under license Raj and all the old stuff that we all are very familiar with. And now they are a very different economy. They do not need as much external capital. They have a huge economy. They are generating a lot of surplus themselves, and they have a lot of capital, and they don't have that external dependency. So I think it is not fair for us to compare. And India is an open country, right? So I think let us also look at it from the other point of view. China is a highly state-controlled economy where the state has a lot of power over its citizens and can do things. And we are not like that, and we never will be, and we don't want to be.
Yeah.
That means that our doors will always be open. Our citizens can emigrate, and the Indian government cannot put the IIT topper and tell him that, look, you're too precious for the country. I want to allow you to go and do a PhD in Stanford. That is not possible in our country, but it is possible in China. So in an open country like ours, where people are free to move and capital is also, to some extent, mobile, we need to be very, very open and free to match the mobility of our people. So you cannot have people be mobile, but capital be highly restricted. Then, of course, people will just move out to where capital is less restricted.
I think those are all good points. I had a bunch more questions, but we're just completely out of time. Maybe we need to do one more of this with both of you, and maybe invite others as well. I do really hope this is the first of many conversations that we will have with sort of top engineers and technologists like both of you here in this program, as we debate in terms of what needs to be done. And I really hope policymakers watch this and take some of these suggestions right on board. Prashant and Joydeep, thank you very much, both of you, for joining us here on this episode. Really good conversation and insightful. Thank you indeed.
Thanks for having us.
Okay, well, that's it on this edition. As I said, a lot more to discuss, but we'll sort of continue this at a later point. It's a wrap on the Global Reset. Thanks very much for staying with us today. More comes up on the other side.